Hi, everybody. I'm Mike. This is Budget Guns and Gear Reviews, and you are listening to The Right of the People, where we use the first to defend the second every Friday night at 7 p.m. Eastern. So uncover your keyboards and fire up your fingers. Time to join the conversation.
Now, stop. Hi, everybody. Thanks for stopping by, being part of the conversation this week. We got a lot to talk about, but first I want to go ahead and say hello to everybody out there in the chat. Let me scroll back because it's been going on for a while. We got Gunpowder Beauty, Caleb Popejoy, Gizzard Gary, Black Cat Outdoors, AWAG 1000, Atypical Jake. That's one I don't recognize. Welcome. Yeah.
He's one of the unsung heroes of gun channels.
Oh, well, outstanding. Glad you could come by. The Gun Snob. Who else we got out there? Rich White. Glad to see you. Vanessa Kitty. And I think that's pretty much everybody that I've seen so far. Like I said, chat's been going on for a minute. They're waiting on me to get everything ready out here. They've been having a pretty good food chat out there talking about Whataburger. Yes, I think it was Gunpowder Beauty says she wished they had them in Michigan. Yeah, I wish they had them in Ohio. I'm right with you. I worked at a Whataburger for a brief bit when I lived in Phoenix, and I absolutely loved their food. Hated working there because, well, fast food, but man, their burgers were really good. And I haven't had one since. Speaking of, thanks for joining. I want to go through the panel here and say hello to everybody. MW Tactical, how you doing, sir?
Doing great. And yourself?
Can't be better. It's Friday, 7 o'clock. Time to spread a little bit of freedom.
I'm all for it. Done my homework, so I'm ready to talk.
You actually read my prep email? Outstanding. I think you're probably the only one.
Yeah, I read it. If you send me an email, I read it. If you send me a text, I'll respond. If you call me, I'll definitely talk to you.
Outstanding.
I can attest to the whole, talking on the phone thing.
Matt, 50 caliber Karma, how you doing, sir?
My entire state is on fire, and it is miserable.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, we've got several national forests and a couple of cities on fire, and somebody started a trash can fire right outside my dealership today, so that was fun.
Well, can't have too much fire, I guess.
I think they were just trying to get into the spirit of it.
Yeah. Night Strike, how you doing, sir?
Shall not be infringed.
As expected.
I'm good. I just cleaned the P320 off, and as long as the weather permits, I may be shooting it. So
good.
So
roll call 219, fresh off of his new shotgun video. How you doing, sir?
Hey, what's going on, Budget? Thanks for having me. I'm driving, going to Wally World to see all people in PJs.
Well, everybody's got to be comfortable when they're getting their cheap imported goods.
Hey, he's living the life of not having to work where he used to work. That's
right. Just think of it like that, Ro. Could be worse. You could be at Myers. Squib, how you doing, sir?
Fuck.
I like Myers.
Yeah, go get a fucking job there. You won't like it then.
No, that's not in the works. But you can go to Wally World and buy 100% American. You can actually fill your shopping cart with all American-made stuff if you look. You just have to do a little looking.
That's right. I did buy a American-made half hatchet over there. I'm planning to do a video on. As a matter of fact, it was the one that I knocked off my workbench and it cut the crap out of my toe.
Yeah, I mean, what is that? Do you need steel-toed boots or?
I need to not be lazy and actually put the blade guard on my tools when I'm done with them. That's what I need.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
Says the guy with the split open hand.
Hey, at least I didn't split open my toe. That's all I'm saying.
I was just thinking, you could have a busted hand and he could have a busted foot, and then we could have you guys in a potato sack race together.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, all I'm going to say to that, at least I still went to the CCW course and I passed it with a split open hand. So just, take that into consideration.
Over on the gun channel side, we got Dr. No, the Gun Snob, and Clay. Good to see you guys. Thanks for stopping by and watching us, because if I didn't mention it, which I don't think I did, we are simulcast over on the wonderful gun channels, the water cooler of the Second Amendment on the internet. So if you are not a gun channels member, you probably should be. You can always find something and someone to talk to and about 24/7, 365 over there, and it is free. You do not have to be a creator. So go on over there and check it out. All right. Well, today we've got a lot to talk about. So I'm going to go ahead and get on into it. We usually do have a lot to talk about. That just goes to show you how much is happening in the Second Amendment community right now. You have shows like this popping up all over the place. Tons of stuff to talk about. Tons of people to talk about it. You have a lot of different viewpoints coming through, and a lot of people starting to get involved on the activism side to raise awareness and fight for our rights instead of let the thieves come and steal them in the night. And I think that is absolutely great. I wish we would have more of it, as a matter of fact. So I'm kind of going to steal a page out of Ghost's book and urge everybody out there who's even thinking about it, pick up the camera. Man, we need your voice. Anyhow, anti-gun protesters were afforded an opportunity to prove just how ignorant they were last week. The March kids from the Parkland shooting, I'm not going to call them survivors, because I think you actually have to have been attacked to be a survivor. And from what I understand, Hogwash and crew weren't. They were kind of there on campus somewhere, and there's even dispute about that in the case of Hog. So
yeah, they said he wasn't there.
Someone who was actually in that building, I'll call them a survivor, because they definitely could have been attacked. But someone who was on the other side of campus, or maybe at home going to get his camera or something, I don't know. Maybe not. But anyhow, the Hog and crew were at the NRA offices last week to protest for their March on the NRA. Piece out of Breitbart from August 5th, 2018. Gun control activists who took part in Saturday's March on NRA uttered numerous profundities, such as their desire to ban fully semi-automatic guns and their belief that it is ammunition that makes a semi-automatic an automatic. On July 29th, Breitbart News reported that Parkland gun control activists and the National Organization for Change were planning to march in front of NRA's headquarters. They held the march and put forward myriad demands, including calls to remove the NRA's tax-exempt status. As the protesters held picket signs, the NRA sent a camera crew around to ask them about specific gun controls they would support. The camera crew also gave protesters the chance to show how knowledgeable they were about firearms. And let me pull this up, because I'm going to go ahead and screen share this. Hopefully they won't ding me for it. We'll see.
They will.
I don't think the NRA will. They might. Hell, who knows? I could be wrong.
Can do and how fast. So it's your ammunition that separates and makes a semi-automatic automatic.
Let me back this up actually to the beginning. There we go.
Fully semi-automatic guns, definitely. What's a AR-15?
From my understanding, anything that has automatic loading and refiring is something that can kill more people more quickly.
Now, before I go any further, I want to make sure. Can you guys see this out there in the chat? Is it coming through on the YouTube side?
Yes.
Yeah, it looks like it is. Good. All right, we'll go ahead and continue.
We don't want a repeat of last week or the week before when we were all just staring at dumb
That's
Avatar.
how much damage you can do and how fast. So it's your ammunition that separates and makes a semi-automatic. Automatic.
Look at the cars, for example. When you get into a car crash, are you going to blame the car? Probably not.
What is a bump stock?
Oh man, dude, you're really asking.
Okay, so let's go to the next one.
What's the matter with your biology?
So that's the caliber of people we're dealing with. Wonderful. Pun intended, too, right?
I want to know how biology works with guns.
I don't know, man.
Because I think it would be more so engineering or mechanics than it would be
No, I can
biology.
actually see this one. All right, because if you are biologically wired to hide behind other people, because some people are fighters and some are not, and if you're afraid, then you obviously don't want the people who want to hurt you to have better items, and so you're going to be afraid of anything. If you're not willing to defend yourself with anything at all, then you don't want them to have better things also.
Okay.
Makes sense. Like, oh, what's wrong with your biology that you want to defend yourself and your family? Does that make sense? Am I sounding like a crazy person?
You sound like
Yeah, you sounded just about as coherent as the person that said that, let me tell you. By the way, speaking of Mr. Hogg, he attended the march while protected by armed security. So isn't that wonderful?
What a hypocrite.
But as they say, but wait, there's more. Because from the next day, here's an article on Breitbart. March on NRA protester says it's wrong to shoot home intruders. A gun control activist who took part in Saturday's March on NRA called for a total ban on firearms and laughed at the fact that some people think it's okay to shoot home intruders. An NRA camera crew was walking around speaking with protesters when the woman said, "A gun ban is absolutely what's necessary. I think that we need to start from scratch with the whole gun issue." She added, "We have people who think it's okay to kill an intruder in their house." Other protesters chanted "shame, shame, shame" at the NRA while taking part in a protest for which Everytown for Gun Safety provided the free ice cream. So here's video from the NRA about
yeah, just don't drink the water.
This woman.
There's something in that ice cream, and there's something in that water.
Yes, a gun ban is absolutely what's necessary. I think that we need to start from scratch with the whole gun issue. We have people who think that it's okay to kill an intruder into their house. People who think that it's okay to kill an intruder into their house. If a intruder in your house came before a judge, they would not get the death penalty. Wouldn't happen. So we need to have a whole different mindset reset.
Shame, 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 shame,
A lot of people have been saying, quote unquote, ban fully semi-automatic guns. Do you believe in that?
I do. Just too fast. Why?
All right, perfect. Thank you so much for coming out. Have a good march or rally.
Hey, thank you.
Wow. The comments against shooting home intruders are in addition to those by other attendees who called for a ban on fully semi-automatic guns and suggested no civilian should be able to carry a gun for self-defense. A protester named Amy told the camera crew that she supports a full repeal of the Second Amendment and does not think civilians need guns at all. But the gun control groups involved in the protest stress again and again that they do not want to take away anybody's guns. So there you have it, folks. These people prove themselves to be the maroons they are. As Bugs would say, what an ignoramus.
Can I say I hope their First Amendment right gets repealed too?
I hope those people get a
see where
bad
you're going there, but
Do you see where I'm going? Hashtag shall not be infringed.
I see where you're going there, but to even suggest that in jest is just about as bad as what they're suggesting. Almost.
Well, I don't mean it, so there you go. They meant it.
Well, yeah, that's true.
I don't mean it, because otherwise I wouldn't be here.
Well, true that, and you wouldn't be doing the wonderful gun tube.
No, I wouldn't be the owner and operator of GunTube. I wouldn't.
Where anything goes as long as it doesn't involve porn
or terrorism.
or terrorism. So I'm
going to shoot myself in the foot, and I'm sorry for the expression, but you know, I'll even let Jaeger on GunTube.
Well, you know, hey, he has a message too, you know.
Yeah. So, yeah.
He has a message too. Let it out. Let the market decide who they want to listen to.
Right.
But here's my question for you guys.
Uh-oh.
You guys saw the types of people that we're dealing with here on the other side of this issue. I mean, I don't think that anyone who's dialed in and plugged in and actually follows this stuff is surprised by any of it. But how do you deal with that? How do you combat such willful ignorance? How do you I mean, do you even bother trying to change their minds, or do you apparently someone's at my door and my dogs don't like it.
I'm on the issue of hoping for natural selection. That's where I'm at.
Well, first things first is you got to understand the type of people that you're dealing with, right? So these people who are making these claims, obviously, they never lived like a rough life or ever been in a fight or ever had an encounter, whereas they understand the importance of self-defense. So once you understand that equation, now you should understand how you got to apprehend them and talk to them and possibly change their mind.
And that's a good point. They don't, I think a significant portion of them don't really have that frame of reference. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, I call it false privilege. So because you're living in the neighborhood where your house is $5-10 million, and you never had crime in that neighborhood, you're not worried about the people that are under you, because I don't have $5 or $10 million, but I do understand I have to protect what I do have,
I had a conversation with some people who live in a well-to-do neighborhood. They've got a lot of money and they're well off and they're anti-gun, and they don't believe in the whole defend your family thing. And when I was having a conversation with them, I said, what would you do in the event of civil unrest where the police would not be able to protect your neighborhood, or the National Guard, it's going to take them time to get out, or they're all over the place and they cannot be everywhere at once? What would you do without an equalizer? Oh, they're not coming here. They're going to stay in their crappy neighborhoods. They're not coming here. No, wrong. The first place they're going to loot is where the money is. You've got the biggest TV. You've got the nicest car. You've got all this stuff, and you're undefended. They're not going to stay in their rough neighborhood where their neighbor has just as little as them, and their neighbor's got an unregistered gun.
Why would you try to go on a crime spree where there's nothing to steal?
Right.
You would go to, it's like, who was it? Was it Dillinger that said, why do you rob banks? Well, that's where the money is.
Yeah. The other thing is, how many times have we seen a situation where there's been a news report, or the NRA unfortunately has exploited it, or whatever it is, where there's been a female who was raped, who after the fact said she never believed in guns until after she got raped. And now she feels that she needs a gun to protect herself so that never happens again. And that's an awful way for somebody to realize that they need to have an equal, or they may need to have an equalizer to protect themselves, or their fear of guns, or their misunderstanding of the desire for self-defense and things like that. Until something like this happens and somebody goes through a tragedy, I don't think they really can grasp the fact that that whole, it's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it thing. Yep. You know what I mean?
Well,
I think Roko's at Walmart.
Yeah, it kind of falls back into that platform of the meme that's going around. Everybody's a gangster until it's time to do gangster stuff.
Yeah. I think another part of it is the whole culture of dependency. You know, it's, well, somebody else will take care of it. Somebody else will deal with the bad guys. That's what police are for. That's what our security's for. I don't have to do that. People, they don't come from a culture of self-reliance. And that's part of the problem as well. And again, it comes back around to the question then, since they don't have this frame of reference, since they don't have this, it's very much a cultural disconnect. Do we bother, or do we try to go to the people who may be listening and that are undecided? Because I think that the Moonbats at that rally, yeah, I think they and those like them are never going to be convinced by any argument and logic and piece of any words that we say. Nothing's going to get through because they lack that frame of reference, and there's that cultural disconnect. So
I don't believe in this mythical 70% of the population is unconvinced. I just don't believe in it because I've never seen it. I've never seen somebody who's been okay with it, but not okay with it both. I mean, I guess when I was younger, I was a pro-gun guy. I like guns and this sort of thing, but I was for gun control because I was naive. But I wouldn't consider that part of this mythical 70% that's on the fence. If you're not for the right to self-defense and the right to keep your government from becoming tyrannical, then you're anti-gun. And you say, well, no, I just don't have an opinion. Okay, well, I'm putting you in the anti-gun column because until you have an opinion that is for, you know, what Night Strike says, shall not be infringed, cut and dry, then you're on the other side. And I just don't get this whole, oh, there's 70% that are just on the where are they?
Well, I don't know that percentage is accurate. I don't know that the percentage is accurate, but I do believe that there's a significant portion. Again, I don't know what the numbers would be, but my gut tells me there's a significant portion that aren't 100% pro like we are, that aren't 100% anti like the other side is, but that are just meh. They're apathetic. They don't care. They haven't realized where their interests are in the preservation of their freedom. They just take it for granted.
But I don't think just because you own a handgun or that you keep in your nightstand to defend your home at night, or you have a hunting shotgun or rifle, that you're necessarily pro-gun.
No.
Just because you own a firearm or two firearms, or you inherited 4 guns from your grandpa, does not necessarily mean that you're pro to A.
No, but I case in point, I have a good friend. I've known him for many years. He was one of my groomsmen at my wedding, who actually used to be a card-carrying libertarian, but now votes Democrat because he believes in the majority of their party. However, owns guns, has always owned guns, says he's not anti-Second Amendment, and he does get into debates with other liberals over firearms, but yet still prioritizes other things ahead of the right to keep and bear arms. And I think that's where a lot of people fall too.
Well, you know, a lot of people,
I think it's short-sighted.
The structure of the Constitution and laws in the community. A lot of people choose not to have guns, but they do support it because they understand the importance of the Second Amendment. You know, because if you don't have the Second Amendment, you really can't enforce the First Amendment.
Yeah, well, if you don't have the Second Amendment, you don't have any of the others. It's that simple.
Exactly.
The Bill of Rights is useless. I mean, it's supported by the First and the Second. Everything else comes after that.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So, in the end, when you look at it, you know, that's what the conclusion is like a lot of people who is not for it, they never had to deal with anything to make them understand, right? But the people who are all for it, they actually did the studies, they actually lived it, and they clearly understand. So it's just a matter of perspective of how you look at it from whatever end of the table you're sitting at.
Yeah. Yep. So I don't know. I don't know what the strategy is for us. I tend to understand and accept that when I'm arguing with someone on this issue, or when I'm debating someone on this issue, I'm not really talking to them, because if someone's taking that position, the anti-position, chances are I'm not going to change their mind. The only thing that I'm doing is I'm putting out these arguments to counter their argument, in the hopes that the bystander, the third party that may or may not have an opinion either way, gets some facts, gets some actual truth from which they can make a decision. That's the tack I tend to take with it.
Well, you can always do what I do. What I do is, whenever I talk to somebody that's anti-gun, I always offer them to come to the range with me, and then we can have this conversation on the range in front of the gun and watch you perform and watch me perform. And now it's really going to get good.
And that's a good idea. That might gain a convert.
Mm-hmm. But I say out of 10 people that I suggested that to, only 1 or 2 took me up on the offer.
Yeah. And out of those 1 or 2, how many of them had at least a moderation of their views?
One person straight up said, I clearly understand. I see what you're saying now. I'm with it. The other person was, I clearly see it, but, I got a family, so it just had to go in depth in conversation and more in training for them to actually come to the plate.
Good. Well, that's a good tactic. Try to turn your enemies into friends.
Yeah, that's the only way to be in today's society.
Yeah.
Well, I would say it's more important to turn the people sitting on the wall to your friends, because there's a lot of people, and I realized this, and it was like a huge, ridiculous shock to my system the other day when I was arguing about communism, which is if they have a fundamentally different worldview than you, nothing you say, nothing you do can change that. I said I should not be responsible for anyone but myself, and they said, I don't know how to tell you should be nice to people. I said, if I'm being forced, I'm not being nice. And it went into this whole thing. Point is, if they have a fundamental worldview that is against whatever it is, you have that woman who says, you should not shoot an intruder, then she does not believe that you have any right at all to self-defense, and no other argument will get through to her.
Yep. Out of the chat, Revolver says, do you know how weirded out I would be if I'm in my home without a firearm? Hell, I don't even take up my trash without a firearm. I also cut my grass with a firearm. Am I weird? My answer to that is no, because I do the same thing. I carry a gun when I mow my lawn. It doesn't hurt that my neighbor shot the dude that was living in his house a year or 2 ago, and he's not exactly even-tempered. So yeah, but always every day I carry a gun sitting around the house. My wife always used to wonder, well, why I would do something like that, why I would carry a gun when I'm sitting around, why? And the next door neighbor popped the guy. That's why.
Because 100% of home invasions happen in the home.
That's it.
Pants on, gun on.
Black Cat says I'm armed from the time I wake up until I go to bed. Yeah. Absolutely. That's why 99.999% of the time I'm carrying my little Taurus TCP 380, because you can stick it in your pocket and pretty much forget about the doggone thing. I've got bigger guns, I've got more powerful guns, higher capacity, bigger calibers, et cetera, but that little thing ensures that I always have a weapon on me. It's that simple. Well, I bought it. It's the gun I carry when I don't want to carry a gun. That's why. Somebody over on Gun Channel, let me refresh.
Yeah, that's why, I'll keep in my, in each of my bags, go bag, whatever, my car bag, I'll keep something bigger, something a little more powerful that might be more useful. But it's always just the LCR with me. It's tiny little things. Throw it on real quick.
Clay says pants are optional in his house. So Clay, if pants are optional, where are you carrying your gun there, buddy?
shoulder holster.
He's keister carrying.
No, not the prison pocket.
Ankle carry?
I hope it's a shoulder or an ankle rig or something like that.
No, see, I hope it's an ankle because that way when you bend down to get it, you put your opponent off guard. You turn around, bend, grab your gun for your ankle. And they're like, well, this is not going the way I expected. And there's a good chance they'll be gone when you turn around.
Gun Snob says, yeah, Clay carries it in his prison purse. You.
Just think about that. You kick in somebody's door, the first thing they do is turn around and bend over while they're naked. You're just going to hesitate.
Yeah, no
That's
kidding.
the deterrent there is. It's like, I don't think right.
All right, on to the next topic. Last week at my impromptu Sunday version of the Right of the People, we talked about the death toll in Chicago reaching almost 60 before noon on Sunday. Well, if you extend that out to 6 a.m. Monday, the total comes to 70 shot, 11 fatally over weekend in gun-controlled Chicago. More than 70 people were shot, 11 fatally over the weekend in gun-controlled Chicago. On August 5th, 2018, Breitbart News reported that at least 40 were shot during the early hours of Sunday morning. There were 4 fatalities during that time period. At least 57 people were shot between 5 p.m. Friday and noon Sunday. Stroger Hospital was forced to issue a trauma lockdown because the number of emergency patients brought in for treatment. The Chicago Tribune reports that at least 73 people had been shot by 6 a.m. Monday morning, 11 of them fatally. 6 of the shootings in gun-controlled Chicago injured 4 or more people in a single attack. In other words, 6 shooting alone accounted for over 24 victims. The Chicago Police Chief of Patrol, Fred Waller, points the finger at gun violence. He suggests gang members purposefully shoot into crowds of people gathered on hot summer nights, allowing them to easily multiply the carnage. Waller said, they take advantage of that opportunity and they shoot into a crowd no matter who they hit. People were shot while riding bicycles, attending funerals, taking part in block parties, and just standing outside. So this is flies in the face of the logic that the hoplophobes would use to state that if we only had more gun control, there'd be a lot less shootings. And the ones that we did have, they'd be easier to track and would be easier to solve and be easier to make arrests. And oh, wait, because on 8th August 2018, Chicago police have made no arrest for weekend 70-plus shooting victims. Chicago police have made no arrest for the weekend 70-plus shooting victims as witnesses to the incidents refused to come forward. On August 6th, Breitbart News reported that the violent weekend, noting that 11 of the 70-plus shooting victims died. USA Today reports that witnesses are refusing to come forward to name suspects in the shootings. In fact, the wounded shooting victims are refusing to speak as well. This silence was modeled by 23-year-old Romel Young, a young man who was shot after a fist fight in Chicago earlier in the year. When police approached Young in the hospital and asked him about the gunman, he refused to give details. And when asked by news outlets, he remained mum, saying only, I believe karma is vengeful. You feel me? Following last week's violence with no arrest, Mayor Rahm Emanuel, Democrat, and Chicago Police Superintendent responded to the dearth of witnesses by pleading with people to tell police what they know. Johnson said, you all know who these individuals are. They come into your homes every day, sleep with you every night. Grandparents, parents, siblings, significant others, you know who they are. The silence from witnesses contributes to the fact that the Chicago Police Department has solved far fewer murders over the last several years compared to most other major departments around the country. In 2016, they were only able to make arrests or at least identify the suspect in 26% of the cases they had investigated. And 2016 was a bloody year with nearly 800 homicides in the Windy City. In 2017, there were 650 murders, yet the Chicago Sun-Times reports that police only made an arrest or at least identified a suspect in 17.5% of the cases. So that's it. Gun control. Works like a charm in Chicago, doesn't it?
Well, it kept anybody from shooting back.
Well, there is that. It kept anybody from shooting back. Because, you know, we can't have that. We can't have someone defending themselves against somebody from trying to kill them, right? Instead, we need to protect. We need to protect the bad guys.
Well, let's look at the whole Chicago thing from an open forum. You know, that whole northern part of the states was the industrial part, and once they took the jobs out, of course, people are going to start fending for survival. Right. So, of course, you know, you're going to have your crime spree, you're going to have your drug spree. And then, of course, people are just going to steal whatever, you know,
sure,
to sell something to make a living. So, and when you look at it from that standpoint,
I don't believe in the whole take the jobs out thing. That's
no,
a
I'm
cop
saying
out. The rest of it, though.
What I'm saying is put the jobs in, because if you put the jobs in, it's going to cut down on everything, because the jobs because of
but the thing is, how many people commute to a job?
It doesn't matter if you commute to a job, if you walk, or if you drive. The thing is, if you have jobs in that community, right, as long as money is circling around and people don't have to worry and struggle, right, you don't have to worry about the BS of the shootings now on that great of a scale.
Well, you're going to the causes of the issue, which is really where the solution lies.
Which is where we need to go.
It's where we need to go. But
no, I think it's displacing blame. I'm sorry, but if a company moves out or a city makes a policy or something that makes companies not want to stay or not want to reinvest or whatever, and the jobs leave the city, then you drive to the suburb, you take the bus to the suburb, whatever it is, to go get a job. There are plenty of people I work with here that drive 2 hours one way for this job. Ooh. They live out in the country where it's cheap to live, and they like being in the country, and they drive 2 hours one way to come here.
Yeah, but dude, you really need the financial means to get out to the country, to be in a place where that's a possibility. If you were in, like, say, a boom town, and suddenly there was no boom, you're already stuck in, you know, you've got your debt.
Right, but these businesses do not necessarily move. Sometimes they move out of state, and you can't follow them. But sometimes they just move from the city to the suburbs. Why? Because the suburbs give tax incentives, or the suburbs have got cheaper land, or cheaper there's infrastructure there, or whatever it is. Or the city's falling apart, and the police aren't keeping it up, or the insurance rates go up in the city. I mean, there's all kinds of reasons. I'll give you an example. I live right outside of Detroit. Inside Detroit itself, there's still a bunch of auto plants and things like that. But they're in these old, dilapidated, falling apart buildings, and a lot of the places that left Detroit moved 30 minutes in one direction. That's it. That's all they did. And all you got to do is jump on the interstate and drive 30 minutes north, west, south. You can't go east because you'll be in Canada. And you're right back at that factory, possibly making more money because the counties outside of Detroit, the wages are usually higher because of the cost of living. So you could live in Detroit cheaply, but work in Oakland County and make Oakland County wages, which is the richest county in the state, and only have a 30-minute, 45-minute commute every day. So saying that the jobs move away and that brings in the crime, that's a cop-out. That means the people aren't willing to commute. They're not willing to work for their money. And that's displacing the blame on somebody else. You need to get up, dust yourself off, and make something of yourself.
It's not pushing the blame off, because if you don't have the means, you don't have the means. And
what sort of means?
That leads to the crime. Okay, so let's take a family who doesn't have a car. So let's just say
not my problem. Get a car.
Okay, so listen. Okay, so now listen. That's the wrong way of thinking. That's the wrong way of thinking, because now you're adding to the solution. I mean, adding to the problem instead of adding to the solution. You know. So now, if we don't have jobs and we know crime is up because of jobs are not there. So if we bring jobs to the community, even if it's something as simple as making a sandwich, right? You're giving somebody a job.
No, what you do is, if you haven't got off your butt to own a car, and you have kids, you've got a family to take care of, and you're not even doing the responsible thing of having a reliable, safe piece of transportation. You take the bus every day to your job in the suburbs, and you save, and you save, and you save, and eventually you get yourself a car. You work yourself up, just like we all started when we were young, and we had minimum wage jobs, we had crappy cars, we had all this other stuff. And as we got older, we started getting more skills, and we started getting more experience, and started getting more on our resume, and we were able to get those higher paying jobs, and we were able to get a nicer car, and we were able to live a better life, and we were able to raise a family and stuff like that. When you have somebody who says, the job's left and I don't have a car, so it's your problem, society, because I can't take care of myself. No, I'm sorry, I got no sympathy. Sorry.
Dude, you can't just.
Yeah.
There's people
So-
whose credit is wrecked. All right, when I came out of the Army, I had terrible credit. I had my separation bonus, and that was it. You can't just magically pull, good credit, savings, all
Yeah,
that.
when I came out of the Marine Corps, I had bad credit too. And I got off my ass and I worked 2 jobs and I saved up my money and I got myself a used car and
you also got to look at
I
it from
went-
the standpoint you have the
I
military.
went right back to the
backing.
factory that I worked at in the suburbs.
You had the history of the military backing you, because now when you go apply for a job, as soon as you put military,
They don't care.
in DD214,
They don't care.
They do care. They
do not trust me. As many
They
job
do
interviews
care.
I've gone to, no, they have you write it down. They don't care. They don't, My
Okay.
boss, I've been here 10 months, and the other day he's going, I noticed you got a veteran license
so-
plate. You were in the military?
okay, so now
I'm like,
let's talk-
didn't you
let's talk
read my
about me.
didn't you read my resume?
Let's talk about me. Let's talk about me. Just retired last year, right? I applied for 30 jobs since I've been out of the military, right? Because I said once I retire, I'm not working again. Every job I applied for, I got called back, all because I was in the military.
Look,
So
they
like
have
I
you
said-
fill out that form that says that you are recognized as a something other veteran or whatnot, and I think that's for tax purposes. But I'm telling you, in all the jobs I've gone to, all the jobs I've interviewed for, all the jobs I've applied for, I put that down because it's in the paperwork. And they never get to page 3 on my resume and see that I was in the military. They don't seem to care. Okay, maybe where you're at they do. I guess where I'm at they don't. But where I'm at, all you got to do is move over one city, drive an extra 30 minutes, 45 minutes, and you got a job. So maybe where you're at, you could drive 45 minutes and you still don't have a job. I don't know. Well, all I'm saying is I don't like it when people want to blame the crime in their area on society, on a company that moved out, or on a president, or on any of that other stuff. It's up to you to be responsible for yourself. It's up to you to be reliant on yourself. It's up to you to pick yourself up by your bootstraps and dust yourself off and work hard. And every time life knocks you down, you get back up. If you just want to stay down and say, somebody save me, that's part of the problem.
All right,
No, I
guys.
think- I
on-
think you just turned that all around, dude. That's not what was said.
On this note, in the interest of time, I'm going to cut this one short, and we're going to move on.
Censorship
shall not be infringed.
It's time management, man. It's time management. Come on. Because we got 15 minutes, and there's still a couple more things I want to cover. One of which being, speaking of censorship, thank you for that wonderful segue. There's a piece by CBS 13. Lodi teen kicked out of class over NRA shirt by Angela Greenwood, August 6, 2018, 10:38 p.m.
real quick.
Go ahead.
Are we allowed to swear here? Because this is just north of me and it's got me heated.
Try to keep it PG-13.
Fine.
An angry mother is speaking out after she says a Lodi High School history teacher targeted students wearing T-shirts advertising the National Rifle Association. She was basically being attacked in class, said Mother Charlene Craig. 2 sophomores were wearing the NRA shirts when they say they were singled out in class by their teacher, who started schooling them on why guns are bad. Okay. That guns kill people, said Craig. It's a lesson Craig says was way out of line. I think he's there to teach. I don't think he's there to discuss his personal beliefs. It happened during history class on Friday. He basically yelled at her, telling her that she would be writing an essay if she disagreed with him. Craig says her 15-year-old daughter was lectured, while another student was sent to the principal's office for refusing to take off the NRA shirt, a shirt that supports lifestyles they've grown up with within families of hunters and farmers. That's what she is. That's what she does, said Craig. The shirt had an NRA logo in front, and in the back, there are pictures of shell casings outlined in an American flag. Below that reads the words National Rifle Association. What's missing from the shirt is a picture of a gun and exactly why Craig says the students should have been left alone. The dress code still clearly states weapons. According to a statement from the Lodi Unified School District, the school administration reviewed the T-shirt in question and determined that it did not violate school dress code policy. Craig says that she realizes it's a sensitive topic, but says students shouldn't be punished for the political or personal beliefs of their teachers. I'm going to continue to send my daughter to school in it. I don't see that there's a problem. Lodi Unified also says it plans to refresh all staff about dress code policies so so this type of incident does not happen again. Okay, Matt, you have some things that you'd like to say about this, so go right ahead.
Well, dude, it's so incredibly frustrating when places I am get called out for this kind of thing. You're like, I don't know anybody who would be like this. I don't know where these nuts just happen to pop up with their anti-gun nonsense. And they're right. It's not something that a teacher should be getting involved with. A teacher should be teaching the curriculum and, doing what they can to inspire the kids to want to follow that curriculum. But that would be it. They don't need to freaking put their personal hang-ups on kids. It's messed up. Dude, this is super fucked up.
Yeah, well, it's nothing new. They unfortunately, for whatever reason, it seems that academia, to include our public schools, seems to have been infiltrated by the left, and they use it as a forum to impress their beliefs upon kids instead of teach them, actual useful things. They don't dispense knowledge, they dispense dogma anymore, and don't try to educate, they try to indoctrinate. And that's a damn shame. And this is just another case of it. Out in the chat on the YouTube side, Mateo674 says, I noticed on the forum from several schools that students are not allowed to wear or display the flag. I thought that was interesting. Yeah, that's been going on for a long time. So I don't know why we as parents will tolerate this stuff, why we don't rise up in arms and go to our school board meetings and demand that this kind of behavior stop.
Dude, I ever hear about one of my daughter's teachers pulling this crap, I would do that. I would go take over the school board.
People do go to the meetings and the school board say, what are you going to do?
Vote their asses out is what they need to do.
Well, if that's what you can do there, once again, not every place is the same. You can't vote on them here.
You don't vote on your school board there?
No, it's kind of crap.
Oh,
they do whatever they want. Oh, believe me, I've dealt with the school board on issues, and they're like, what are you going to do? You can't touch us. Get the hell out of here. That sort of thing. It's like, wow, dang. Well, gee, I pay your salary. That don't matter. They're protected. So it's like, what are you going to do? And just try to just muddle through. It's crap. It really is. But I would like to live somewhere where I did have more say in some of this sort of thing with my kids. But if I did that, then I might be living somewhere where it's more dangerous or where there are no jobs or whatever. It's a trade-off. Everything's a trade-off. Where you live is a trade-off. So if this is happening somewhere where they can vote the bums out, vote them out.
Yeah, here you can do that. You can vote them out. I was on the verge of running for our school board over bullying issues that one of my kids was actually all of my kids have suffered, but they seem to have finally started doing something about it. So I didn't have to. But yeah, you can do that where I live. Vanessa Kitty asked, what was the dress code policy that was violated? Well, that's the thing. She didn't actually violate the policy. Now here's my question. Yes, they're going to do refresher training with the teachers and about the dress code policies, but what are they going to discipline the teacher that wrongfully badgered and berated a student? 2 of them. I suspect I already know what that answer is. And
what's funny is you're going to have a good teacher that makes a stupid mistake that doesn't really do any harm, that loses their job because they're going to be PC, and then you're going to have a teacher who makes a bad mistake and is protected by the union. It's just the way it works.
Well, I think in this case, it's not a bad mistake. It's just simply bad acting. They acted in a bad manner. It was malfeasance.
Yeah, I think it was because I think the policy was they couldn't wear anything on their shirts with firearms or drugs or something like that. But it was no gun on it. It was like a flag with shell casings that made out the flag, and it had NRA on it. So.
But, it goes back to whether you like them or not, it goes back to the media demonizing the NRA and everything that to do with it. And by extension, the gun culture, which is really what they're after. It's just that the NRA is the most visible face thereof. So they're going to demonize it and isolate it. They're playing playing Alinsky's rules for radicals for everything they're worth. And, you know, since the NRA is bad, okay, you can't wear an NRA shirt. Now, I'm not saying whether or not I agree with the NRA. As a matter of fact, I think the NRA ILA is just garbage for us, but I'm still very happy and impressed with their training and education division. I think their political side has let us down, but that's another show. But, you know, just to demonize the NRA simply because guns are bad, okay, that's wrong. It's bullshit. Vanessa Ketty says, I personally, if a school hires me that has such a policy not to fly the flag, I would normally ensure flags are on everything. Good.
You know, when you're doing that South Park teacher voice, I about choked on a cucumber. I was laughing so hard. Thanks, man. I'm in a foul mood. I don't blame the show. I take personal responsibility for my foul mood. So you put me in a better mood. Okay.
Okay. You shouldn't choke. It's bad. Okay.
God.
Mateo674 says the sad part is the lesson has already been instilled. Student was berated in front of the whole class, and I think the teacher should be reprimanded in front of the whole student body to counterbalance. That would be something called justice, and thus it will never happen. You know, I agree with you 100%. I think it should happen, but it won't. The school would never do that. It's unfortunate, but there it is. Well, now we've had all this doom and gloom, death and destruction, and ignorant protesters, and rising death tolls, and
Time for the favorite part of my show.
politically indoctrinating teachers. Yes, you're absolutely right, Ro. It is time for the self-defense shout-outs. For those of you who are maybe new to the show or may not have been paying attention, every week I end the show on a high note with what I call the self-defense shout-out segment. And it is not me reveling in the death of someone, the bad guy. It is me reveling in the continued life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness of the good guy, and the fact that they had the means, method, and opportunity by which to prevail over those who would deprive them of said life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. And the lead story we're going to go with this segment is one that I'm sure you guys have talked about. It should be in the news all over, but strangely isn't like it should. Concealed permit holder intervenes, saves kids at back-to-school event. August 5th, 2018. Police in Titusville, Florida say a concealed carry permit holder intervened and shot a gunman at a back-to-school event Sunday afternoon. WFTV reports that a fistfight occurred at the event, and after it, a shooting. A concealed carry permit holder then intervened, leaving the shooter with life-threatening injuries. Deputy Chief Todd Hutchinson said, "We are extremely grateful that nobody else was injured in this incident. This suspect opened fire at a crowded public park. This could have been so much worse." Florida's State Attorney General office indicated that no charges are expected to be filed against the concealed permit holder. Ironically, it was less than a month ago that NPR and Gabby Gifford's group rejected the good guy with a gun scenario and described stories of self-defense gun usage as a myth. A myth that we disprove. Well, their myth. A claim that we disprove every week here, and that's why I do it. So, yeah, I've seen the video of it. You see, it doesn't show the actual event taking place. What it shows is a bunch of kids playing around, and then you hear a bunch of gunshots and people running and scrambling everywhere. Strangely enough, some adults leaving kids behind, but that's neither here nor there. But the point is, what could have been really bad was not. So, outstanding to that mystery concealed carry holder who saved the day. Good guy with a gun. How strange. This is by WBTV in Chicago. Charlotte. Yeah, there's a hell of a difference between Chicago and Charlotte. Alleged intruder shot, killed by Southeast Charlotte business owner. A business owner shot and killed a man breaking into their Southeast Charlotte shop early Monday morning, Charlotte Mecklenburg police say. The break-in was reported by an alarm company at around 4:33 a.m. at the American Beauty and Garden Center in the 4400 block of East Independence Boulevard. Around the same time, a man called 911 saying that he spotted an intruder in the business on a security camera. The man called back shortly after and told 911 operator that he just shot someone in the store. Police say they arrived to find the alleged intruder, identified as 20-year-old Justin Anderson, shot behind the business. Medic pronounced him dead on the scene. CMPD says it appears Anderson entered the business by smashing the front glass window. When the business owner arrived, Anderson reportedly ran out of the front door before he was shot. He then ran behind the business. As soon as he got here, I saw the tape and I knew something was up because I never see anything like that around here, said CJ Williamson, who owns a business a couple doors down. It makes me a little scared because I obviously want to protect my business. This is everything I own. This is my life. At this point, it's not clear if the intruder was armed or where exactly he was shot. I kind of understand what the business owner down here is going through, but I don't know if I would have gone through those lengths to protect my business, said Williams. Officials have not said if the alleged shooter was taken into custody or whether any charges will be filed. Whitney Brown works at Avis a few doors down from where the shooting happened. She said there was an attempted robbery at her business a few years ago. Because of that, they purchased more security for the building. It happened to us, and now it happened to them. It's not a safe area, said Brown. We have that extra security, so we feel safe, and the people inside feel safe as well. Officials were asking anyone with information about the incident to call Crime Stoppers. Anderson's family has been notified of his death. You know, you go to try to rob somebody, deprive them of their business, their livelihood, their life. Well, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. That's how I see it. I have no sympathy for someone that gets shot in the commission of a crime like that. Speaking of no sympathy for someone, this one, I think I kind of saved the best for last here. Woman shoots masturbating bicyclist trying to break into her Southeast Houston home, police say. By CHRON.
Gross.
Jay Jordan from CHRON. A woman opened fire on a man who allegedly exposed himself to her granddaughter outside her Southeast Houston home Tuesday, police said. This is from August 7, 2018. A woman opened fire on a masturbating man trying to break into her Southeast Houston home Tuesday afternoon, police said. The woman, in her 60s, was taking out her trash along the 6600 block of Cherrydale Drive around 5:15 p.m. when she spotted the man, riding his bike, masturbating, according to Houston Police Department Lieutenant Larry Crows. How the hell? That's some skills right there if you're riding your bike and masturbating at the same time. I'm sorry.
You said that word 3 times. I think you just want an excuse to say that word.
What? Skills?
Yeah.
She yelled at him to stop the lewd act, but he persisted, Croson said. The man eventually followed the woman to her front door after she went inside and allegedly tried to break in. The woman ordered the man to go away and even told him she had a gun, Croson said. When the man refused to stop, she fired one round through her front door, striking the man in his chest. He immediately ran back to his bike and managed to pedal a few feet away from the house before collapsing, Croson said. Paramedics rushed him to Ben Taub Hospital in critical condition. He is now expected to survive. The woman was questioned by officers and homicide detectives, but was not immediately charged, Croson said. I hope not. Investigators will work with the Harris County District Attorney's Office to determine if charges are necessary. I would have done the same thing if it were my house, said one neighbor who asked not to be identified. Ain't no telling what else he was going to do or what she's got. Or what he's got. She was protecting her property. The man was out on bond for a separate exposure charge from about a week ago, Croson said. Officers at the scene recognized the man from that arrest when he was allegedly walking down a busy Southeast Houston street in the Buff. Officers initially thought the man exposed himself to the woman's granddaughter, but later determined it was not the case. Her 14-year-old granddaughter was inside the home when the action unfolded, but the child did not see any of it, Croson said. The woman was shaken up by the incident, but was cooperating with detectives. So, yeah, that's definitely a case of play stupid games, win stupid prizes there. I'm just, one thing that, as I already kind of remarked upon, one thing about this that kind of impresses me in a weird way is the fact that he was talented enough to do that while riding a bike. How? That's dedication right there to being a frickin' pervert.
What if it was a unicycle?
I guess he'd have to be in a circus because he's good at juggling his balls. It's called multitasking. User, try it sometime. That's what Black Cat Outdoors says. So there we have it. Another episode in the history books. Try to go ahead and wait, no, don't try that. Yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and say thank you to everybody that's out there in the chat. I'm glad that you guys decided to spend some of your Friday night talking with us. I know that you have many, many more important and fun things that you could be doing, but you chose to spend it with us, and I'm very appreciative of that. Speaking of chose to spend it with us, I'm going to say thanks to my panel, give them a chance to leave us with any words of wisdom or plugs or anything they'd like to give us. So MW Tactical, anything you'd like to say, sir?
Yeah, if you haven't done so, go follow me on Facebook and Instagram. Check out some of the activities that I'm doing. We still got our GoFundMe open, so we're trying to get a couple of sheriffs into jiu-jitsu training for a year, start a kids youth camp, and getting people out to vote. So if you want to contribute to that, go to gofundme.com/M-W Tactical.
Outstanding. Roll call. Anything you'd like to leave us with, sir?
Thanks for having me on, Budget. I really do appreciate it. I do have a PayPal account set up. If anybody is interested in it, I will be making a video with that information. So if you're wanting to donate to the Roll Call 219 channel, I will be accepting donations. Whatever you can spare is fine with me. So I'll be rolling out a video here in the next few days with all that information, and I will be using that currency for ammunition and possible travel stuff coming up here in the future, possibly for the Tulsa Wanamaker Gun Show next year in April. So all that information will be flying out here. And go check out my channel. I just put a new video up of a shotgun that I just bought at this new job that I have that is pretty cool, where I sell the Second Amendment to law-abiding citizens every single day.
All right. Squibs, are there any words of wisdom you want to give us before we go?
I'm still in a bad mood, but that's on me. I would like to correct my statement from earlier, though. When I got out of the service back in the 90s, the first job I got when I got home from the military, I got a promotion at that job once they found out that I was in the military because of what I did. After that, I got a 20-plus year career, and the guy who interviewed me was more interested in my military certifications and experience than my job experience in the civilian world. Since then, it hasn't made a lick of difference. But just because that's my experience doesn't mean that somebody else might not have a more positive experience. So just want to clarify me running my mouth because I'm in a foul mood.
Well, it happens. We'll forgive you. And on that note,
no, don't forgive me. I want to live with the guilt.
Well, okay, then punish yourself. I expect you to beat yourself with knotted paracord. 10 lashes. All right. I'm going to go ahead and leave us with the same thing I always leave us with. You know, never let a day go by that you don't contact your elected representatives and Congress critters and let them know what you think about the Second Amendment and any pending legislation that may be on the table, or other things such as the confirmation of Judge Kavanaugh to the Supreme Court. You know, telephone, telegraph, email, snail mail, heliograph, carrier pigeon, smoke signals, whatever you got to do to get the message out, let them know. Another thing that you can do, I'm going to give a plug to the Second Amendment Foundation. You know, they're responsible for 80% of existing pro-gun case law, you know, and they fight tirelessly to protect your Second Amendment rights. It would behoove you to help them out in any way that you can. It's $15 a year to be a yearly member, $150 to be a life member. You know, it's not that much, folks, but what they do for us is priceless. So there it is, folks. Help out. Let your Congress critters know what you think, and never, ever, ever give up the fight.